Good evening, everyone. Today's topic of discussion is positive self talk, ways to keep from downward spiraling. Now, this discussion topic came to me during our first Life Advisor call. We talked a little bit about how difficult it can be to say positive things to yourself. And during that call, I mentioned how important it is that we have positive self talk. But today, I wanted to give you a few tips on how to actually have that positive self talk for yourself. Um, these tips are not the way, just a way to help you live the positive life you desire for yourself and maybe help a few others live that same life along the way. Many people that are close to me always hear me say that it's about what you tell yourself and what you tell others. These two things can help determine how mentally and emotionally healthy you really are. I know many people seem to think that, mental and emotional are the same thing, but mental is more about the things you think and how you process that information internally. Emotional deals more with the external expression of those actual thoughts and your reaction to them. Today, I want to focus on the importance of a healthy mental state and the information that we tell ourselves that should result in positive self talk. Growing up, I was always involved in some type of activity. I sang, danced, competed in some pageants, and I ran track amongst a few other things. One thing that became a common denominator for me was the fact that I rarely won. I mean, I would come in second and third place, but first place, in most cases, was far removed from my experiences. I transitioned into adulthood and it still was difficult for me to speak positively of myself. Because of the way I viewed my past and my past experiences, I would tell myself things like I was never good enough. I wasn't good enough then, so I'm obviously not good enough now. I would also tell myself it was meant for me to fail. I'm not supposed to be happy. I don't deserve to come out on top. And I know we talked about it a little bit on last week's call, but I even in more recent years would compare myself to my friends, oh how they're so successful and what am I doing wrong and why am I not the one being blessed? I was eating, living and breathing while functioning in a continuous downward spiral. I would allow one negative trigger to take me pretty much from gloom to doom. Just thinking negatively was not enough. I had to think about the domino effect of negative things that would happen to me because of my initial negative situation. Knowingly, none of us would actually do this, but subconsciously, a lot of us do this on a daily basis. We begin to take our situation and instead of thinking about how it can get better, we think about how things will just get worse and worse. We allow people and situations or even our circumstances to cause us to shift into that downward spiral. One bad thing happens and we think about tons of other bad things that will occur as well. For me, it wasn't until I made a conscious decision to start telling myself I can or I deserve that I began to really change my thinking. I had to start telling myself that I am enough and that I am capable. I had to stop comparing myself and learn to accept me for me. It's difficult to make other people accept you when you don't know how to accept yourself. The same thing goes for loving yourself. If you don't love you, it's difficult to help others understand how it is that you really need to be loved. Now, nothing occurs overnight. And neither did I just magically one day start telling myself, oh, everything is fixed. No, it took and it still takes a continuous daily effort for me to speak positively both to and about myself. Notice I said that it takes, as in I'm still working at this all the time. Speaking positively to yourself is obviously something that you have to do on a continuous basis. I mean, it's not like you can say something positive to yourself one time and all of your problems are solved. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to be committed to positively encouraging yourself every day. I had to learn not to confuse my being content with being positive. Being content is really just to be satisfied with what you have or not wanting more or anything else. But to be positive is to be without relation or comparison to other things. To be positive is to be absolute. And you want to be absolute about the things you say to yourself. Positive self talk should lack comparison and affirm who you are and even speak to who you desire to be. What would really make you happy? Material things, more money, more relationships or connections? Though many people think that these things will make them happy, research shows that happiness is more about the thought of actually being happy. If you don't think positively, then it can make it difficult for positive things to actually manifest in your life. So let's talk a little bit about some ways to keep ourselves from going through this downward spiral situation. One of the first ways to keep from downward spiraling is to have a list of positive affirmations to repeat to yourself on a daily basis. When I started writing my list of affirmations, I started by just writing down some of the basic things that I wanted to tell myself every day. Like, I'm valuable, I'm beautiful, I'm strong. Most of the statements that I used started with I am or I can or I will. Sometimes it even helps if you make categories for your affirmations, maybe a list for work, a list for family, a list even for your business. Things that you just really want to, keep in your mind at all times. These affirmations that you write should be put into places where you can see them all the time. I mean, my husband and I, when we first made our vision boards, once we got married, we used Velcro tape to put them on our front door so that we had no choice but to see them every day when we left to go to work. So you should also make that same effort to put these affirmations that you have any and everywhere so that you can see them all the time. And you should also make an effort to repeat them to yourself at least 3 times a day. And that's pretty much your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We need food for our soul and we need food for our mind, just like we need the food for our body. The second way to avoid downward spiraling is to have a selective circle. Now, a lot of people may be thinking, well, what does my circle have to do with me being positive? What does my circle have to do with me downward spiraling? I will tell you, the people that are connected to you have a huge effect on you as a person. Everybody that you hang around are the same people that are a reflection of you. If you have someone in your circle that's a negative Nancy, always down, always has something negative to say, you may find yourself becoming like that person. And so you have to say to yourself, is this someone that I need to have in my life? Is this a person that deserves to be in my circle? It may be time for you to remove this person from at least your inner circle. Maybe they're a person that needs to become an associate. You have to surround yourself with people who are where you would like to be. The third way to help eliminate downward spiraling is to lack fear in truth. You cannot be afraid of your truth. You have to be honest in telling yourself and others about who you are. Now, it doesn't mean you have to tell your business and everyone needs to know everything about you, but you do need to share what your truth is. There's a difference between sharing and exposing. When you expose something, it's completely open to the light. But when you just share it, it's by choice and it's information that you want to be put out. This information really allows you the opportunity to just be truthful in expressing who you are. One of the last ways to refrain from downward spiraling is to intentionally acknowledge the good things that happen in your life. You can make an active effort to point out the good things that happen to you within the day. One of the best times I've found to implement this kind of tool is before you go to bed at night. This allows you to have those good thoughts and good things to reflect on while you're sleeping. So, these few tips to help keep you from downward spiraling, like I said, are not the way, but they're just a way for you to get started to implement positive self-talk in your life. Now, there was a question that was floating around social media, and it started like this. If you were asked to list the things you love, how long would it take you to say yourself? So I ask you today, when you want to start reflecting on your positive self-talk and you think about you and the positive things you're saying to yourself, if you were to create a list of things, of positive things that are going on in your life, how long would it take you to say that I am one of the most positive things or reflections in my life? Growth exercise. Number 1. First, you can write down at least 10 positive things that you want to say to yourself each day, such as I am a conqueror, or I deserve to be happy, or today I choose joy. This list can focus on any particular area in your life. Secondly, you can repeat these positive statements or phrases to yourself at least 3 times a day. And third, you can reflect before you go to bed on at least 2 to 3 positive things that happened during your day. Often we so easily acknowledge the negative, but this will allow us to think about the positive things and help calm our minds before we go to sleep. The goal of this exercise is to start the process of continuous positive self-talk and thinking to keep you motivated